कैसे स्टार्ट होगा?
सर वो नीचे से
अच्छा ठीक है,
पेन
ओके ओके ओके, राइट. So any problem from yesterday's class? No problem, no doubt. Okay. So last day we had reached to this positivism, right? And in this positivism we had said it is an ideology that believes that inductivist method can and should be used in the study of social phenomenon or society, right? Now definitely this positivist method is borrowed from natural science, right? Yesterday we talked about physics, it is borrowed from natural science. And in natural science what we deal with inorganic objects, organic objects, right? Means living being. Organic objects means living being, inorganic objects means dead objects, that is what we say generally as commodity or simply object, right? Now since this methodology is considered to be utilized in the study of social phenomenon successfully, now why a person of Auguste Comte's intellect would ever think like that, right? He must have certain assumptions, right? So based on that assumptions, what is that assumption? We will be talking about later on postulates of positivism, postulates of scientific method. These were the two questions that we had in our previous year exams, right? So here basically what exactly is there, that if you see the natural object, they behave under external constraints. Like when you read about Newton's first law of motion, what does it say? That an object either stationary or in motion would remain so till external force is applied, right? That means objects behave under external constraints. No object moves on itself. So object's behavior is, it owes to the forces that are applied on it, the factors that are applied on it, right? Similarly, here also there is a presumption. Without that presumption, one cannot think that the method of natural science can be utilized in the study of society, right? That means there is a presumption by Auguste Comte that human behavior is also consequence of external factors. Let me repeat what I had said day before yesterday. that we are passing through, we are going through the most difficult topic, right. So, naturally it is bound to give a lot of problem to you, right. But as we cross over this, these are fundamental things. So, without understanding it, it would be imprudent to move forward with our syllabus, because first it is very essential to understand what is science, what is sociology, how sociology is conceived to be developed, what are the different streams of sociology. Unless until we know that, we will not be able to understand properly the different topics like religion, social stratification, politics in society, etc., etc., right. So, this is difficult, but I do not have option, that is why I am teaching it first. So, even if you understand a bit less, do not worry about that. As you move forward with the other chapters, gradually you will come to know. But I do not think that I think I am teaching in a simple way, so quite in detail, so it should not create much problem, right. Consequence of external factors, right. So, what is this external factor? Just for the familiarity, if you see, for example, if my father is a rich person, so that is a factor for me, right. So, as rich behave, I am also expected to behave like that. This is Comtean perception, right. Now, definitely there are many factors that are working simultaneously, right. So, it seems very easy to profess or to predict that how a rich person would behave, but there are many other factors also, right. In these factors, generally we can say our economic background is a factor, our environmental condition is a factor, right. Our family background, the culture to which we belong, that is a factor, and above all our genetic makeup is also a factor, right. For example, when we say Sachin Tendulkar is born cricketer, Sachin Tendulkar is born cricketer, he is the god of the cricket, right. Now, the question is, what is the contribution of Sachin Tendulkar in him becoming the god of cricket? Why did he become? Yes, practice. But practice also would be successful provided you have the ability. If you practice cricket in the same way as Sachin Tendulkar does, will you become? No, we are talking about, let us assume that you have the determination. You are working the same, yes, passion also. So, from where does the aptitude come? Inherent. Inherent from where? There are different factors. There are different factors. One thing is that it says it is there in our biology. It is there in our biology, right? Our genetic structure, our genetic makeup, right? So, biological makeup and genetic makeup is also a factor. Now, it is very difficult to decipher why Sachin Tendulkar is the god of cricket. So, we are just trying partially to understand it, what exactly is the meaning of external factors. Even the biology that we own, we inherit it from our parents, and that is also slightly different. That is also slightly different. So, what kind of energy level, what kind of interest it will generate, we are simply not aware of, right. So, that is also a factor. So, biological makeup, right, economic condition, cultural factors, all are external to human being, all are external to human being. So, what we are talking about here, objects of nature behave under external constraint, right. And in the study of objects of nature, the natural science, we applied a specific method. That method, due to the consequences, is said to have attained great success, because it proved to be fruitful for us, right. Now, that method is conceived to be utilized in generalization of human social behavior. In generalization of human social behavior, that means what? That Comte must have certain assumption about the nature of human being. Who are we? What kind of person? What is our nature? What is our characteristic feature? And from Comtean perspective, one can be sure that he considers that no doubt human being is complex than inorganic objects, than other organic objects. But at the same time, human beings also behave under external factors. As we move forward, we will see how the things develop, how a pattern evolves in society, and how every person is unique, right. Here simply we behave under external constraint, means they deny the very idea of subjective consciousness. They deny the very idea of subjective consciousness. You must be aware about the word consciousness, consciousness or consciousness, right? Pronunciation may be different. So, what is consciousness? Active state of mind. Anybody understood what he said? Are you clear about what is consciousness from his definition? Can you elaborate further? What is the meaning of active state of mind?
Means whenever means your mind is
No, first elaborate what is active state. What do you mean by active state?
all your senses are working, you are taking the
Senses are working.
yes sir.
Senses means eyes, ear, nose, tongue, skin. Aren't they biology? They are biology. So, you are saying biology is consciousness? You are saying biology is consciousness? I think there is a seat here. I am a very punctual person. कोई बात नहीं, आज हो गया, दोबारा नहीं होना चाहिए. ठीक है. Usually I am quite punctual, right? So, if you miss something in the beginning, the whole class lecture sometimes appear to be fruitless, right? नहीं, it may happen with anybody, sometimes it happens with me also, but don't do it deliberately, right? So, when you are talking about senses are biology, and when you say biology, then it is not consciousness. Now, consciousness is also considered as two types, subjective and objective, right. When you say consciousness is object, consciousness means how do you think, what is your idea, freedom, right. I will be explaining it to understand that. When you say objective, मैं कैसा सोच रहा हूँ, क्यों इस ढंग से सोचता हूँ, if it is product of certain external factors. If you say that I think in such a way, I take the circumstances, define the circumstances in certain way, I do it because of the factors that surrounds me, then it is objective consciousness. Then it is objective consciousness. But man is said to possess subjective consciousness. We will be coming to that idealist perspective later on to understand. Subjective consciousness. What is the meaning of subjective consciousness? Later on in Marx also we will be using this idea of subjective consciousness, though Marx is called as positivist. But foundational basis of Marxian theory is this characterization of human being as possessing subjective consciousness. Right? एक पिक्चर की कहानी पहले बता दूं, फिर समझने में अच्छा लगेगा. I am forgetting the name of the movie, right? But in that movie, Nana Patekar is the actor, right? And Nana Patekar is wishing to be an actor in that movie, right? But he doesn't get the success. His father is old, had already retired, somehow he had got the extension, and mother was already dead. And whenever his father arranged some job for him, he went for 1-2 days, and after that he left the job and came back. I think many of you must have seen that movie. नहीं क्रांतिवीर नहीं, right? क्रांतिवीर थोड़ा सा हाई-फाई movie है, right? So one day the scene is something like this, that Nana Patekar in his house was washing the utensils, right? And his father was quite angry because he had left the job. And in the angst, his father is saying, क्यों छोड़ा जॉब? कहता है मेरा मन नहीं है काम करने का. बोला कि मैंने बहुत मुश्किल से जो है 1 साल का अपना एक्सटेंशन लिया है रिटायरमेंट के बाद, इसके बाद तुझे कौन खिलाए पिलाएगा, एट्सेट्रा एट्सेट्रा. फिर और गुस्सा होता है फादर और कहता है तुझे किसने कहा कि तू एक्टर बनेगा? तो जैसे एक्टिंग करता है ना, किसी ने मेरे कान में आके कहा, किसी ने मेरे कान में आके कहा, किसी ने, यू डोंट नो हु सेड इट, राइट? सो बेसिकली व्हाट ही इज ट्राइंग टू से, in a way it is a kind of divine intervention. It neither owes to my biology, nor owes to my economy, my family background, my culture, my environment, or some kind of accident that keeps on occurring in this universe. No, it's divine from nowhere. What is the concept of divine? God. God क्या होता है? Spiritual power. Can you further elaborate scientifically, empirically, if I say? क्या क्या? Positive energy. तो वो तो purpose हो गया ना, what he is contributing. Can you verify that? Can you verify that? Okay, when he is saying creator of God, there is a sociologist called Bergson, right? There is another philosopher called Feuerbach, whom we will be studying. And what they say, God has not created us, we have created God. Man is the machine for the making of gods. Man is the machine for the making of gods. So God has not created us, we have created God. This is what they say. And that's why there are so many gods already existing, and there are about millions are likely to come in the future. Right? What exactly is the concept of God? Initially, in initial lectures, I will be deviating a lot. Why? Because I want to bring you into the context, right? So some familiarity. बहुत लोग सोचते हैं कि to the point सर जो है वही पढ़ा दे जो एग्जामिनेशन में आने वाला है, ठीक है? पढ़ा तो दूंगा पर लिख नहीं पाओगे. So when you have a broader understanding of the things, you can write it properly. Okay, you have heard about God particle. Yes. What is that known as now? Higgs boson. Higgs boson. Higgs boson, Higgs plus NC Bose, sorry, JC Bose, right? So that has been synthesized to name that particle, which is called as the most fundamental particle. Most fundamental particle. Okay. Can you tell me what is the meaning of fundamental? Hmm?
That cannot be further divided.
That cannot be further divided, right? That can be divided further, but we don't know. That can be divided because philosophically speaking, there is nothing that lasts either inside or outside. There is always something after the boundary wall, and there is always something inside the smallest particle, right. So, the indivisible part of an entity, when you are talking about indivisible part which cannot be further divided from our present knowledge, then that is considered as fundamental element or fundamental particle, right. Earlier we said electron, proton and neutron is the fundamental particle. Now we say Higgs boson is the fundamental particle. But before getting the name of Higgs boson, it was known as God particle. Why God particle? For there are two reasons. One, scientists believed that this is the seed of the universe, and secondly, because we don't know what it is. We don't know what it is, right. To understand it, I will give an example to understand it. If you have 99 fever, what would you do? क्या करोगे? रेस्ट. 99 पे दवा नहीं खाते. रेस्ट. ठीक है, दवा भी जो खाते वो 99 के बाद खाते हैं. 99 के बाद खाते हैं. ठीक है. If you have 100, then yourself paracetamol. 101 paracetamol. 102 Monte LC. Okay. 103. 104 doctor. 105 नो अभी बचा हुआ है, तब की बात कर रहा हूँ. इंसान अभी बचा हुआ है. 105 फीवर है, मरा नहीं है. देन ICU ventilator. 107 but still you are not dead. Pray. Pray. To whom pray? God. Why? Because we don't know how to save him. Even doctors don't know how to save him. Doctors have done everything that they can do, but still the status of the patient is not improving. Then doctors also say, now you pray to the God. Some charisma can save him. So, God is something, when you say unknown force, not known, तो जहाँ भी जब है आपके नॉलेज की लिमिटेशन आ जाती है, वहाँ से गॉड का डोमेन शुरू होता है, right? That's why in 99 fever you did not care about God. In 100 also you did not care about God, right? So, God and divine is something which is described as some unknown force which we don't know, right? So, why I am teaching sociology and why you are preparing for civil services? If only God knows, that means you are listening to your consciousness. You are listening to your consciousness or subjective consciousness. Subjective consciousness means unique, inner, unique, inner. But sometimes it happens that, and this is happening here, so many people are preparing for civil services. So, you can't say what you are doing is unique, but it is also not imitation. It is also not imitation. You are doing for your reason, he is doing for his own reason, and she is doing for her own reason, right. So, similar action, similar motive, similar intention does not mean that we are imitating each other. Rather, we are listening to our inner voice, our consciousness, right. So, what you are doing is product of external factor, your motive is product of external factor, then it is objective consciousness. Positivists believe human consciousness is objective, right. Idealists believe human consciousness is subjective. It is unique, or what we know about the Indian philosophy, the concept of zero or shunya, from nowhere. Are you getting it? So, now you understood that there are two views, one is subjective consciousness, another is objective consciousness, right. This subjective consciousness means what? Your free choice, you are what the choice that you are making are not constrained by any external factor. आपके पिताजी ने कहा इसलिए आप प्रिपेयर कर रहे हो, नहीं. आपके पड़ोसी जो है वो IAS बन गया इसलिए आप कर रहे हो, नहीं. ठीक है. आपको पावर चाहिए इसलिए आप कर रहे हो, नहीं. आपको पैसे चाहिए इसलिए कर रहे हो, नहीं. क्यों कर रहे हो? बिकॉज दैट्स माई inclination, that's I am directed by my inner voice, which we, when something which does not exist, it is very difficult to define. That's why we sometimes say unique, sometimes we say freedom, sometimes we say divine, etc., etc. Are you getting it? So, here this is the presumption that the consciousness, the so called consciousness of human being is not subjective, but objective. This is the presumption of positivism, right. That means what? You are actor in a drama. What you act under natural condition, under natural forces. You do not do anything, rather you are conditioned to do like that. So, human behavior is also product of external forces. Later on we will say this type of theory is also known as determinism also. Determinism also, but that is later on. So, this is the assumption in this, and based on that assumption Auguste Comte presumed there is no difference between other objects of nature and human being, or human being is also an object of nature. So, as objects of nature, other objects of nature behave under external constraint, human being also behaves under external constraint. The only limitation is that we are limited by tools and information. More information we gather, more tools we develop, one day we will be able to identify the factors why a person is behaving in one way or the other way, right. So, that is why he said as we have laws about nature, similarly we can have laws about society. Right? Okay. There is a lot of philosophy here, that is why sometimes. So, let me do one thing, let us see the philosophical background here. Okay, I will see later on when the context comes. One announcement is there that after today our class is on Monday, yes, right. So, ma'am is out of station and I am also not here. So, after on Monday at the same time, but do not waste the time, for we can waste time, no problem, we can afford to waste For you, what you need to do, whatever the books I have said. A study material you got from here? No, you haven't got. Right. Okay. Okay, I will putting up on the WhatsApp group, right? But that is nice IAS study material, so I didn't want to put here. But anyway, we don't have choice, right? I will ask them how to do it, and we'll do that. So, sociology as science chapter that you are reading, and from Soterios Sarantakos, that first 100 pages you will be reading. A lot of things that I am teaching here is collected from very diverse sources. So, it is very difficult to get a consolidated study material. Something I have given sociology as science also, that you must have seen that also. So, right. So, that PDF will also help, but you have to do initially a lot of thinking. It is not like read like novel. Do some thinking while reading. As far as volume of study material is concerned, it is not voluminous in sociology. That means sociology is a qualitative discipline. So, definitely if a discipline is abstract and qualitative, you have to do initially a lot of thinking, particularly in this chapter, sociology as science, right. So, this positivism, and I will move back to from positivism to again what is science, right. What we said, positivism, human beings are also objects of nature. Human behavior is product of external tangible, you know what is tangible? Factors which you can sense through sensory experiences, you can experience, right. And human society, whatever the society is, that is natural, it has naturally evolved. Since we are part of the nature, so we cannot avoid natural law. So, whatever natural law is there, and therefore, what should be the duty of positivist? To discover the law of nature of society, to discover the law of nature of society, right. So, it is natural arrangement, it follows certain natural law. Later on we will be reading about that Herbert Spencer and Herbert Spencer had said that law of evolution is the law of nature. Have you heard about evolution? Right? What is evolution? Change. Time to time change. ठीक से बोलो, time to time change. All changes are not evolutionary. From a diffused state to a specialized state. From a diffused state to a specialized state, right? Or progressive differentiation, that is called evolution. This is only one part of that, right? If I talk about evolution, so what Herbert Spencer says, later on when we talk about social change, we will be discussing in detail these different types of evolution. What Herbert Spencer said, he was highly inspired by the biological theory of evolution of Charles Darwin. The biological theory of evolution of Charles Darwin. What Charles Darwin had said, as he said, creator of mankind or creator of the universe. So, before Charles Darwin, in the religious domain, the belief was prevalent that God has created the creatures. God has created the creatures. Different creatures are created by God. Darwin said, ये गॉड वॉड की बात बेकार है, गॉड वॉड ने कुछ नहीं किया है, वी आर प्रोडक्ट ऑफ अ नेचुरल प्रोसेस. दिस यूनिवर्स follows a process. There is a specific character of this universe, right? And that is particularly especially he says about the organismic world, the living organisms world. And what he says, that the different creatures are the product of the process of evolution, when he talks about survival of the fittest, etc., etc., right. So, from diffused state, gradually, like you might have heard that the first form of life on the earth was in the form of blue algae, right, and we all are descendant of the same blue algae. So, size of the blue algae, their population increased, blah 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 things happened, then differentiation occurred and new organism kept on emerging out of the previous stages. जैसे हम लोग कहते हैं ना, बंदर हमारे पूर्वज हैं, बंदर बंदर ही रह गए, हम आदमी हो गए. So, two streams grew. This is evolution. So, what he says, Darwin says that organisms are created by or are the product of the diversity of this universe, this organic world is due to the natural process of biological evolution, right. Just to mention here at this point of time, what is the meaning of that? He says there are two fundamental characteristics of this evolution. Every organism has a tendency to grow its size. That is called progressive increase in size. Like when amoeba is born, immediately it divides into two. Why? Because they have that instinct to multiply. They have this instinct to multiply. So, all organisms have this instinct to multiply, including human being. There is a biosociology which says that we human being and all organisms, there are 36 types of instincts that have been identified till date. Instincts means the nature. Instincts means nature. So, what it says, we all want to see image of ourselves. That is there in our nature. We all want to see image of ourselves, and that is why it is our inherent tendency to reproduce by whatever method. Asexual animals, they do in one way, bisexuals, they do in other way. But the main purpose behind this is we want to see our own image, and therefore population increases. This is called progressive increase in size. And when the size increases, complexity increases. When the size increases, complexity increases. And when complexity increases, differentiation occurs. For example, right now this is the class, and I think we are around 25 students sitting in this class. My voice is good enough to reach to the last person, right. So, we do not need much things. Suppose this class is of 250 students, size grew, what will happen? My voice would not reach to the last person, we will have to do certain arrangement. So, new needs would arise, we will have to deal with the problem of echo, right. So, many new. So, when the size of the class is increasing, complexity is increasing, and this increased complexity leads to emergence of new needs, and therefore specialized organs develop. Specialized, so there would be a proper audio visual system, its handlers, right, etc. Will need a architect to properly deal with the situation, etc., etc., right. So, what is happening as we are moving forward, as our size is growing, right, complexity is increasing and complexity is increasing, so differentiation is occurring, right. If you want to see it, you can visit to any ultrasound office lab and you can see how we in our mother's womb, what are the size and shape at the time of conception and how it gradually changes, right. So, this is a natural process, this is a natural process which is called as evolution. So, he says society has to follow that. Society is part of nature. So, society does not have choice. Society has to follow the law of nature, and the law of nature is evolution, right. That means we scientists do not do anything, we discover the things which exist in the nature. We do not make laws for society, we do not make laws for this universe, right. So, only if you determine that law, that natural law, you will be dealing with, you will be describing the social phenomenon and social processes, right. So, he says, Herbert Spencer, it has to follow law of nature. So, if sociology has to attain the status of positive science, it must follow the law of evolution, right. Darwin talks about biological evolution, this person talks about social evolution, right, but there are other views also, right. Cosmic evolution is also there, genesis and telesis, two types of evolution, he says, genesis and telesis, cosmogenesis, biogenesis, anthropogenesis, and finally sociogenesis. We will see that later on, right. So, are you getting some familiarity? Means the idea behind the concept of positivism. It was about method, it is about law of nature, it is about that human being cannot manufacture these things, the behavior lies in the nature and we simply discover it, like law of gravitation is the law of nature. We cannot say Newton invented it, Newton simply discovered it. So, we sociologists also have to discover the law of nature of society, right. Some familiarity? Okay. Now, this positivism is being criticized. So, we will see critic of positivism, critic of positivism. Critic of positivism. The first criticism of positivism is from what is known as a school of thought, which is known as philosophy of science. Philosophy of science. You know what is philosophy? What is philosophy? Very timely. तुम भी कहीं और चले गए थे क्या? इधर आ जाओ यहाँ पे सामने मेरे पास. नहीं, पीछे ही बैठोगे? क्लास के बाद जरा फटी जीन्स का लॉजिक बताना तो मुझे, मैं आज तक समझ नहीं पाया क्यों पहनते हैं।
धुला नहीं करते और बाइक
नहीं नहीं, वो तो ठीक है, खरीदा क्यों उसके बारे में, खरीदा क्यों वो लॉजिक। चलो कोई मजाक कर रहा हूँ।
तब कोचिंग ज्वाइन नहीं किया?
तब कोचिंग नहीं ज्वाइन किया था, या मैं नहीं था तब। नहीं नहीं, पहनो यार, इतना फ्रीडम तो होना ही चाहिए। तो ऐसे ही लाइट मूड के लिए कह रहा था। एनीवे, फिलोसफी ऑफ साइंस। व्हाट इज फिलोसफी? मदर ऑफ all sciences, mother of all disciplines, not all sciences. We have already said the science is not a discipline, right? So mother of all disciplines. Okay, further make me understand what is philosophy. Let us understand that I am a layman. Detail, data. Study. Have you ever tried to see in a dictionary what is the meaning of this? Right? Research. Which philosopher was a researcher? ऐसे ही बोल, तो ऐसे ही लिखना मत एग्जाम में। Are philosopher researcher?
It's a kind of ideology or opinion.
Opinion?
On the basis of some evidence, maybe.
Maybe on the basis of some evidence, right? So when you open up the Webster dictionary or Chambers dictionary, you will find the meaning wise speculation. देखिए, मैं पढ़ा सिर्फ नहीं रहा हूँ, मैं ये भी सिखा रहा हूँ कि कैसे पढ़ना चाहिए। How to approach your subject. If you are coming across certain term and terminology, try to know about them. You must have curiosity to know about them. सीधा रट नहीं लिया, right? So wise speculation. Right? Wise speculation. What is the meaning of speculation? Guess? Or anything else? Guess? But wise. Or what he said, your opinion, viewpoint about reality. Your opinion and viewpoint about reality. जो है नेचर में, उसके बारे में जो है, उसके बारे में हमारा व्यू पॉइंट क्या है, what is the viewpoint, right? So in this way we all are philosophers, because we all have viewpoint about the things around us. Then why a few people are treated as philosopher and rest are not? We common man, वैसे हम लोग कहते हैं फिलोसोफर मत बनो।
सर उनकी बातें प्रैक्टिकल होती होंगी?
कोई भी फिलोसफी प्रैक्टिकल नहीं होता है। अभी अभी आ रहे हैं।
Maybe because of some evidence they are saying, मतलब पास्ट को देख के फिर एस्टिमेट लगाते हैं सब।
Every philosophical view has a counter philosophical view.
Yes.
And both claim I am true. Both claim I am true. Right? अभी एक कहानी बताऊंगा, कहानी नहीं, रियल स्टोरी. So philosophy is simply viewpoint. But what happens? In our viewpoints, generally there is lack of consistency. आज हम जो कहते हैं ना, कल उसी को अपोज कर देते हैं. there is no consistency of principle and consistency of logic. When we read the so called great philosophers, you will find there is great consistency and logic in their viewpoints about reality. Now, if I contradict myself, who will be convinced by me? Nobody. But if I do not contradict myself, then I am likely to earn a lot of followers. So, philosophical speculations are not devoid of reality, but they are not reality. And that viewpoint attains large number of followers. When a viewpoint attains a large number of followers, we start respecting that person as philosopher. Right? I have a viewpoint, that viewpoint is developing. If it is self-contradictory, it will die down soon. But if the person is not opinionating the viewpoints which is not self-contradictory, right, then naturally it will earn followers. It will earn followers. हाँ, कुछ कह रहे थे?
So, but changing our opinion by the time is a part of learning, maybe. And if you are just stick to one thing,
Philosophers don't change.
you just being
Philosophers don't change their opinion.
rigid. So,
Any philosopher you know that has changed its opinion throughout their life, because philosophers adopt certain methodology that is called one-sided logical or hypothetical accentuation. बढ़ा चढ़ा के एक साइड में बोलते हैं. They accentuate the reality towards one imaginary point, and the other does it on the other side. For example, in sociology we have to read two. One is known as idealism or idealist philosophy, right? And second is known as empiricist philosophy or empiricism.
Are all sociologists philosophers?
All sociologists are not philosophers. Early sociologists are more or less philosophers.
Because is this a condition that they should stick to that view that they are following, like Karl Marx or Auguste Comte? Is that a condition for a
So,
philosopher to be?
they were into the stage of speculation. Now, Marx had not conducted any field study, right? And when you see Marx theory, you will find Marx was highly inspired by philosophers like Kant and Hegel, right? So, that is what I am saying, that any discipline, its propagators in the early phase are more into the philosophy stage, and when we move forward, do some empirical anatomical analysis, then it develops like science.
So that means every scientist is a philosopher initially.
Natural philosophers they were called earlier. I think you have not gone through the PDF.
Sir, PDF अभी आई नहीं, वो जब
क्या
group
बात?
में add हुए तो
अच्छा, बोलते ना, कल ही भेज देता मैं. किसी को बोलो, भेज देगा फिर. अच्छा, ये लोग नहीं कर सकते हैं. Okay, I will do it. I will do it again. Right? Scientists were earlier called as natural philosophers. The term scientist came very late, right? And Galileo, perhaps, if I am not wrong. Yes, Galileo. Galileo is described as the father of science, right. So, he was, I am just reading it, the term science is derived from the Latin word scientia meaning knowledge. It is exactly not known who coined the term first, but it was philosopher William Whewell who first coined the term scientist in 1833. Prior to that, scientists were called natural philosophers, right? See, unless until you hypothecate, unless until you speculate, unless until you guess, you cannot conduct research. What is hypothesis? Your speculation based on your experiences. So, when you are preparing a hypothesis, at that time you will act more like a philosopher. When you test it in actual condition, exposing it with the variables, then you come with that certainty, yes, this is the cause and effect relationship. This is the cause and effect relationship. Are you getting it? So, idealist, further idealism is there, neo-idealism is there, that is also there. We will see that also, because there was a question in our exam, what do you mean by neo-idealism? Generally we used to study idealism, right. In the books it was written Weber was a neo-idealist, that is all. At one place it was written Weber was a neo-idealist. और उनको ही पता था कि इसको पढ़ के लोग निकल लेंगे, बुक में नहीं दिया है तो क्यों पढ़ें, right. So they asked, what do you mean by neo-idealism? You must have the curiosity when you are coming across a term that is not explained in a particular book, at least have certain knowledge about them, right. Empiricism means this is about consciousness and this is about sensory experiences, right. If you look at idealism, then it starts, we will just stress that, then we will come to philosophy of science again. There was a person called Leibniz. Leibniz. See how things evolve or how knowledge evolves. Leibniz was a philosopher, right. And Leibniz had an opinion, a viewpoint about this universe, right. So, whatever was his viewpoint, that is known as Leibnizian universe. He conceived of this universe and its characteristic in certain way. So, his conception of this universe is known as Leibnizian universe. So, what is this concept? He says this world, this universe is composed of discrete entities. This universe is, लिख लो, भूल जाओगे. This universe is composed of discrete entities. And every single entity and every single entity and every single entity is capable of disembodied existence, or independent existence, right. Means whatever you see as two, whatever you are seeing as two. For example, these two chairs. Now, you must be seeing they are same. The chairs that is made of same batch, same factory, same make, same company, right. Huh?
You can say identical.
Identical, same. Identical means what?
Yes.
Same. They are same, right. But he says no, there might be similarity, but even then there would be some difference. तभी एक चेयर पहले टूटता है एक बाद में. दो मोटे आदमी को बैठा दो लगातार काफ़ी दिनों के लिए, जब ये चेयर टूटने लगे तब भी एक चेयर पहले टूटेगा, दूसरा बाद. So every single entity is capable of disembodied existence or unique, right? Leibnizian universe was further modified and extended by another philosopher. His name is Descartes. Descartes, right? Have you heard the name Descartes? कहाँ सुना है? अच्छा, कोर्ट में बोर्ड देखा था. हाँ, मैथ्स में क्या? Cartesian coordinates. So he is the originator of or inventor of that Cartesian coordinates. हटा दो यहाँ से Cartesian coordinate. Descartes is his full name, right? If you see the Cartesian coordinate, what is Cartesian coordinate? X, y is there, okay, accepted, x, y and z, not only x, y, z also. So what does it signify? मैथमेटिक्स के स्टूडेंट कोई हैं? Locate a point. So what this person is saying, that each and every point has a unique location. Because when you draw x axis, y axis and z axis, right? And then you locate the point, and point's position is unique. So every point is unique. But further Descartes moves from mathematics to human character. And what he says, every mind means every person, human being, is unique, capable of independent thinking, right? In a way, what he is saying, possesses subjective consciousness, right? Later on we will be reading G.H. Mead, and there we will be talking about this person, Cartesian ego. So Descartes says that our personality, its sole determinant is our mind. We have a unique thinking capacity, and that shapes our personality. I was talking yesterday about I am what I think I am. Means irrespective of the conditions.
Is it truly unconditional?
मैं truly की बात नहीं कर, मैं उसकी व्यू पॉइंट बता रहा हूँ. There is nothing called truth. Gandhian book, My Experiment with Truth, is a false. Is false. It's a farce. What is truth? What is truth? Truth क्या है? ये white है? सब लोग बोल रहे हैं, ठीक है, सब लोग बोल रहे हैं, सब लोग कन्विंस हैं, तो ये ट्रूथ है. मतलब ये ट्रूथ नहीं है, लोगों का कन्विक्शन ट्रूथ है. You think it is right, you think it is true. So how many people are considering it to be right and true? If majority are considering it to be right and true, it is true.
I was trying to say that, is saying it depends on the surrounding and environment which we are in, our thinking
वो तुम
process-
बात की बात कह रहे
thinking
हो,
process and
मैंने कहा ना लॉजिकल एग्जैगरेशन की बात करते हैं वो,
okay.
लॉजिकली एग्जैगरेट, वन साइडेड एक्सेंचुएशन, रबड़ को लंबा करते हैं ना इसे एक साइड में, राइट. सो वी एक्सेंचुएट द थिंग्स टुवर्ड्स वन एंड. All these philosophers have these tendency, right? And when you move in, like Marx was economic determinist. Economy determines reality. This was Marx had said. Did Weber say that? So who is right and who is wrong, Marx or Weber? It all depends with whom you are more influenced. Whether culture determines economics, religion determines economics, or economics determines religion. Marx says economics determines religion. Weber said religion gave rise to economy. Are you getting it?
Yes, yes.
So, how much you are convinced of the opinion, that makes the thing as truth. Otherwise, there is no absolute truth in this world, not even the color of the wall. Right? Okay. So, this person says about that, means irrespective of the environment in which I am brought up, my personality that would emerge would be same. Though it cannot be done a controlled experiment with one single human being, but what he is saying, hypothetically presuming that if you are born in India, brought up in India, you have a personality. If you are born in India, brought up in America, then also you will have same personality, provided you are the same person. Unique, right? Means external factors does not have any impact on human consciousness. This was further modified by Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant in 18th century. That is, he wrote a book called Critique of Pure Reason. Critique of Pure Reason, 1757. So, what he is saying, that this idea of pure consciousness, does not convince me. External factors does have impact on us, but the ultimate decision maker is our consciousness. Later on, related to it, you will be coming across another term by W.I. Thomas, who says definition of situation. Means the so called same situation may be defined by different person as different. Crash in economy of a country may be saddest for a person. He may be prompted to commit suicide, but at the same time there is another person who has this crash of economy as a new opportunity. So, how do you define situation? It is individual. So, we define the situation and accordingly we act. This is called definition of situation, right. This Kantian idea of this subjective consciousness is, or even Descartes, you can say it as idealism. Idealist philosophy, idealism, idealist perspective, whatever you want to say, you can say. Idealism means primacy of idea. Idea is the derivative of consciousness and consciousness is divine. Subjective consciousness, right. This is called idealism. Later on comes neo-idealism, we will see later. Immanuel Kant's idea was further modified by, Kant has also talked about dualism of mind, dualism of mind. In his philosophy, this concept is also that
Can you repeat that? What is idealism again? Or what?
idealism is primacy of idea, that is subjective consciousness, right. Idea first. Later on we will be reading about dialectical idealism. Dualism of mind means there are opposite ideas in our mind. There is a dual, right. For example, when you graduated, you started thinking about civil services preparation. Did you go through a contradictory phase, should I do or should I not do? कोई ऐसा था जिसने ये सोचा ही नहीं? सबने सोचा होगा. Should I do? Should I not do? Can I do it? Can I not do it? So, this is the moment you consider that I can do civil services, that moment itself in your mind the opposite idea of failure comes, right. So, this dual is there in our mind, this dual is in our mind. This dualism of mind was brought down to the level of society by Hegel, G.W.H. Hegel. This is in one person's mind, within a person's mind. This duality of idea is within a person's mind. Hegel said such duality exists at the societal level also. Thesis, antithesis पढ़ा होगा, right? That is at societal level, that societies also have this duality of ideas. One section of the society adhere to one idea, another section of the society or opposite to that also emerge in the society, right? जैसे यहाँ है ना, बोले कि यहाँ इधर के लोग कहते हैं कोई आइडिया तो इसके अपोजिट इधर वाले बोले, वो डेवलप होता रहता है. लेटर ऑन वी टॉकिंग अबाउट डायलेक्टिकल आइडियलिज्म विच इज अकॉर्डिंग टू हेगल इज द मैकेनिज्म ऑफ चेंज इन हिस्ट्री. Thesis, antithesis we will be reading, right. Duality at the societal level means, suppose we have to pick up a beginning point. We have to pick up a beginning point, otherwise things are quite intertwined with each other. Suppose there exists an idea that man and women should be fully covered by clothes, right. Consequently, opposite idea would develop that man and woman should be wearing least clothes, right. So, this is at what? There are followers of this view and there will be follower of this view. So, these are two conflicting ideas or opinion you can say, right. Later on we will be reading, he talked about primitive communism, opposite to that is capitalism, and opposite to capitalism is again communism, that is also known as negation of negation theory, negation of negation, वो सब पढ़ेंगे बाद में, right. So, this way what you are finding here, that how man possesses subjective consciousness, right, and based on this philosophical speculation, these people have differentiated man from other organisms. These are the philosophical basis on which human is characterized different from other organisms. So, other organisms also have consciousness, but their consciousness is hereditarily determined. शेर की सोच जो है पिछले लाख साल में नहीं बदली है, इसलिए शेर है। और चूहे की तो इसलिए चूहा है। Right? It doesn't change. Right? But human consciousness, if you see culture, changes so fast. Right? So, this is the evolutionary sequence of the ideas that has evolved. Some people will follow him, some people will follow him, we non-positivist, we will talking about non-positivist, they, अरे यार क्या क्या हो जाते हो, they follow this Immanuel Kant, subjective consciousness. Marx was also of this opinion that man possesses subjective consciousness and therefore he must be free to make his own choice, man or woman. मार्क्स women के बारे में नहीं बात करते हैं, वो भी patriarchal थे. So, man must make decision, this is called freedom, and when this freedom is constrained, man feels alienated. तो पढ़ेंगे हम लोग alienation में मार्क्स. Are you getting it? These things, right? So, this is the way, this is called idealist philosophy. Idealist philosophy means primacy of idea and the idea of subjective consciousness of human being. That means also that they treat human being as different from other organisms, right? And opposite to this idealist philosophy is empiricist philosophy. Opposite to this idealist philosophy is empiricist philosophy, which I had written here. स्लाइड चेंज कर दें तो ये मिट जाएगा ना, अरे ये वाला खत्म हो जाएगा यार, फिर वापस आना, इसमें लिखना है वापस, अरे तो दूसरे पे लिख देंगे तो उसको कैसे लाएंगे वापस, समझा करो पूरा। अब आता है तो मुझे नहीं आता है मुझे जितना आता है उतना मैं कर रहा हूँ, ठीक है, तुम भी उतना ही करना जितना आए पहले सीख लो फिर वही करो, राइट। So, idealist is a philosophy, empiricism is a philosophy. One says subjective consciousness, one says external condition. Which one is correct? So, here you need to learn from Michael Sandel. Michael Sandel, professor of philosophy in Harvard Business School, right? And if you are interested, then you can go and on YouTube there are 8 episodes which will be helpful also in your that ethics, integrity and aptitude chapter paper. Michael Sandel, and the name of the 8 episode, that is justice, right, Michael Sandel. What Michael Sandel in the first episode of that he says, and first thing he asked to himself and his students, why a philosopher is teaching in a business school? Because in common sense, business and philosophy are two polar opposite things. Then why Harvard Business School has appointed a professor paying so much money and asking him to teach the students, right? The second question that he says, answer in fact, he says philosophy has never solved any problem. Because there is no philosophy whose antidote is not there. So, what he says, every philosophical view is has counter philosophical view. Every philosophical view has a counter philosophical view, as idealist has a counter philosophical view of empiricism, and both claim representing the truth or the reality. दोनों कहते हैं कि मैं जो कह रहा हूं सच कह रहा हूं, right? So he says, what is the usefulness of philosophy? He says, philosophical speculation has one usefulness, and that is it unsettles the convention. बहुत दिन से जो चीज आप टेकन फॉर ग्रांटेड मानते आ रहे थे, like earlier it was considered, and particularly in Islamic philosophy, that earth is flat, right? But that was countered by the new philosophy that earth is not flat, rather it is spherical, right? So counter philosophy comes and that unsettles the convention. Now definitely this flat and round shape, definitely round shape is the reality. There are many proof of that. So idealist was a philosophy, it was countered by empiricist. Actually what happens, both work, but to highlight the importance you need to have an extremist approach. If you say both occurs, then you will never know what is the contribution of idea in shaping our life and what is the contribution of objective reality or objective condition in shaping our life. इसलिए वो एक तरफ खींच के बताते हैं, जैसे मार्क्स, he logically accentuated this idea towards economy, and then he was able to describe emphatically the contribution of economy on our life. Right? जब एक साइडेड लेते हैं ना, तो वो कहते हैं ना कि बहरों को सुनाने के लिए धमाका करना चाहिए. भगत सिंह ने यही कहा था ना, extremist approach, right? Later on we will be talking about why Auguste Comte is father of sociology and why Emile Durkheim is the real father of sociology. We will see that later on, then we will understand at the early phase of any discipline what is its nature and consequently how the nature changes. That was a question.
Sir, doesn't it creates another convention? मतलब
फिर उसका अपोजिट हो जाएगा.
yes.
फिर उसका वो आएगा, उसको क्वेश्चन कर दिया, so it unsettled.
After all, it's just an opinion or a view. Means
Definitely,
it
but
doesn't prove anything.
but opinion is not devoid of completely reality. The opinion is not completely devoid of reality. Both are talking about the facets of reality. So in actual, when you are taking action, you have to consider both. So when there is a philosophical view persistent in a society, people start taking it for granted, right? Then counter philosophical view as it unsettles that convention. Again, this new would set a convention, and again that would be also unsettled by
Another.
that is new idealism.
Okay.
Idealism was unsettled by empiricism. Empiricism was further unsettled by neo idealism, and idealism, Kantian idealism in modified form, right? So we have talked a lot about philosophy. At least you have some understanding of what is philosophy. So philosophy of science means, what is science? What is your viewpoint? Philosophy of science means, what is the opinion about science? How do you define it? How do you describe it? Right? This positivist philosophy is one philosophical view that describes science in one way. He says inductivism observation, experimentation, verification, generalization, all those things we have said, right. So, first is positivist philosophy, right, and in this we have talked about method, that is verificationism. Verificationism. Yesterday we had said intention is to verify the hypothesis, right, and this verificationism or inductivism was presented as only scientific approach or method. It was presented as only scientific method or approach. Are you getting it? That is what I said. Science and positive method were considered as synonymous to each other, right. And positivists believe that this is the only scientific method, right. This was criticized by a philosopher of science whose name is Karl Popper. Karl Popper. Karl Popper, right. And what he says, positivism is not science, it is against it. Why? Because positivism kills the critical spirit of science. Positivism kills the critical spirit of science, right. What exactly he is trying to convey? He says, as we had in the very beginning when we started the word science, what we had said, that the prime purpose of the so called science and scientific method is to seek knowledge, grow knowledge, right. And at the same time we also know that unless until we have a critical approach, a critical spirit, look at the thing with suspicion, thinking about things other than that exist, our knowledge cannot grow, right. Curiosity, how does curiosity come in our mind? It is because of that critical spirit or critical approach. हम उसको मान लें वही सही है तो वहीं तक लिमिट हो जाएंगे. But when you have certain suspicion on those things, you see the things with doubt, right, then only you will be thinking other than they are, right. What he says, positive method kills the critical spirit. Positive method kills the critical spirit. So, can't we say it is going against the science? Because it will not let us grow our knowledge. Let us grow our knowledge. So, why he is saying so? Because he is referring to this verificationism. He says intention to verify the hypothesis as right kills our critical spirit, right. To understand that, a very simple equation, all know it, 2H2 plus O2 KMnO4, इतना जल्दी नहीं, STP 2H2O, right. Many of the experiments that you conduct in your colleges, schools, they are already proven. They are already proven. And every year you are asked to repeat the same experiment which your seniors did. मजा आता है, मन लगता है करने में, नहीं ना? तो उसमें होता क्या है, एक आदमी करता है और ग्रुप के बाकी सब लोग टोपते हैं. मैं भी सिविल इंजीनियर हूँ बाय प्रोफेशन, तो राउरकेला से, NIT राउरकेला से, तो वहाँ पे कहते थे टोपना. So in the group, one person, nobody was willing to do. It was all the matter of patience, that nobody was willing to do the things. But one person whom we called as hard worker, etc., he knows मैं नहीं करूँगा तो कोई नहीं करेगा तो मेरा भी रह जाएगा, right. So he will do first. He will do first. Now that is also reluctantly, right. And once he does it, then rest of the members of the group, ला भी अपना कॉपी ला, and they will start copying the things. So reluctancy is there on the part of all members of the group. Condition is that if one person knows that no one is going to do it, by second semester he knows that मुझे ही करना पड़ेगा, मैंने नहीं किया तो सब फेल करेंगे, मैं भी फेल करूंगा, right. Why? Because it doesn't interest you, because it doesn't interest you, right. Because suppose the first time you are conducting a experiment, you are proving it right, so still you have doubt about that, whether the equation is right or not. Again you repeat, then doubt goes down. After several repetition, you become doubtless. And when you become doubtless, you stop thinking critically, right. This is the interpretation by Karl Popper. We will see that he is also not completely correct, we will see that. But this is the way he explains the things. He says that this intention to verify kills the critical spirit. So positivism kills the critical spirit of science. Positivism kills the critical spirit of science. Right? A few lines write down here. Scientific theories are abstract. Scientific theories are abstract and can be tested only indirectly by reference to their implications. Only indirectly, comma, by reference to their implications. By reference to their implications, right. What we had said, that any idea or conception about the reality, how it is tested? In the consequence. You think light wave propagates in continuous waveform because you have manufactured certain device. and that device has given some fruitful result. So, the validity of theory lies in the consequence, right. Further write down, no number of positive outcomes, no number of positive outcomes at the level of experimental testing, no number of positive outcomes at the level of experimental testing can confirm a scientific theory, can confirm a scientific theory. But a single counter example, is logically decisive. A single counter example is logically decisive. What is the meaning? You repeated this experiment 100 times, but still you cannot be sure what he is saying. What he is saying and what is the meaning of his saying, I will tell you. You cannot be sure that this is true. What he is saying, I am explaining that, right. But once if this does not give this result, then the conclusion is final, that it is not always true, right. So, what he says, instead of intention to verify, scientists should try to falsify a theory. So, Popper suggests falsificationism. Popper suggests falsificationism. Instead of verifying, one should try to falsify the existing theory. There is different positivist, right. And how can you falsify? You change the catalyst, keep on changing the catalyst, keep on changing the temperature and pressure, and this is about natural science. In social science, change the perspective. From which theoretical perspective you are analyzing the society, change the perspective till the law proves to be wrong. Are you getting it? नहीं. एक तो ये था कि आप इसको सही साबित करने में लगे हुए हैं, सेम कंडीशन में सेम एक्सपेरिमेंट कर रहे हैं तो सेम रिजल्ट आ रहा है, ठीक है. सेम रिजल्ट आ रहा है इसका मतलब नहीं है कि ये सही है, ही इज टॉकिंग फिलोसॉफिकली. लेकिन एक बार वो गलत साबित हो जाता है मतलब कि वो सही नहीं है, ये तो लॉजिकली वी कैन कंक्लूड, राइट. सो ही सेज इंस्टीड ऑफ वेरीफाइंग we should have the intention to prove the theory wrong. So, keep on changing, right, till 2H2 plus O2 does not give rise to 2H2. Then you will be convinced, right. So, intention is what? Falsification. And he says falsificationism maintains the critical spirit, hence it is truly scientific. लिख लो, माथा मत डोलाओ सिर्फ. डोलाना समझते हो? बिहार से हूँ मैं, खैर बिहार छोड़े हुए तो बहुत दिन हो गया, ऑलमोस्ट ये 2023 है ना, 39 ईयर्स. तो भाषा नहीं चेंज हुई है, राइट. तो माथा मत डोलाओ, लिखो. क्या बोला था मैंने? क्या बोला था मैंने लिखने के लिए? falsificationism maintains the critical spirit essential for the growth of knowledge, essential for the growth of knowledge. Hence, it is truly scientific. Hence, it is truly scientific, right? And he says non-positivists, the method that he talks about to falsify is known as hypothetico deductivism. Hypothetico deductivism. Hypothetico deductivism. This hypothetico means knowledge is not independent of awareness. लिख लो वहाँ, बाद में समझेंगे. Knowledge is not independent of awareness. All truth owes to perspective. 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 We will be talking about ontology, epistemology, then we will be further understanding it. What exactly is the meaning of this, right? So, he is talking about certain method, awareness, not independent of awareness. He is talking about this method, we will elaborate it later on, and he says this is truly scientific. This is, according to Karl Popper, this is scientific. राइट कौन सही है, पॉजिटिविस्ट या पॉपर? हु इज करेक्ट, पॉजिटिविस्ट और पॉपर? According to science, so you want to say that the method that we apply in the study of nature is not scientific? Do you want to say that? You don't know. Nick, हाँ. तो मैंने पहले ही कहा था, there is nothing called absolute truth. It's all viewpoint. Positivism is scientific because it is capable of discovering certain feature of society. Non-positivism or hypothetical deductivism is another method that discovers other reality. What we are coming to the conclusion of that, the way positivists considered that science and scientific method is fixed and unchanging is incorrect. Is incorrect. Science and scientific method can be different. So, positivism is one scientific method, positive method is one scientific method which discovers certain facet of the reality, but incapable of discovering all facets of reality. भाई ये यूनिवर्स है, दिस इज रियलिटी, इसकी कुछ लॉ जो हैं वो पॉजिटिविस्ट अप्रोच से पता चल जाती हैं, बट बहुत सारे ऐसे लॉ हैं जो पॉजिटिविज्म से नहीं पता चलता है, उसके लिए कुछ दूसरा मेथड अप्लाई करना। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, positivist method is successful in discovering the reality of nature, but not sufficient for discovering all facets of human reality.
So like dark matter.
नहीं, वो डार्क मैटर वाली बात नहीं है,
नॉर्मल जो लॉज है हमारे वो नॉर्मल मैटर नेचुरल मैटर के लिए कर सकते हैं, लेकिन जो डार्क एनर्जी
हाँ, वहाँ नहीं काम करता।
75% यूनिवर्स में
हाँ, वो नहीं काम करता
है, वो लॉज एप्लीकेबल बिल्कुल
नहीं है, वो इंटायरली यूनिवर्स ही अलग है, राइट. So what it is basically I am trying to convey, which will be later on, not today, on Monday we will be reading about Feyerabend etc., that till certain period science and scientific method were considered as single, fixed and unchanging, right. This idea was unsettled by Karl Popper, who said that you are talking a lot about scientificity of positive method, but you are not highlighting its demerits and its limitations. The demerit and limitation is that it kills the critical spirit, which is very essential for science, because science originally means gain of knowledge, reaching to the truth. So, somehow this positive method is inhibiting us to reach to the truth. So, he says instead of that you try to falsify it, you try to falsify it. It seems that the way I have explained, it seems that I am talking about the two are really quite opposite to each other, but actually they are not, right. I do not have that courage to criticize Auguste Comte or Karl Popper. So, we will take in the next class another philosopher of science whose name is T. S. Kuhn.
Sir, what kind of truth he is trying to seek?
Hmm?
You said that there is nothing called truth, it just,
Nothing called?
मतलब what kind of truth he is trying to seek, that Karl Popper?
देखो, ये दुनिया बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स है,
हाँ,
ठीक है. एक मेथड से इस दुनिया के सारे रियलिटी को नहीं जान सकते, आपको डिफरेंट मेथड अप्लाई करना पड़ेगा. तो वो कह रहा है कि एक ही मेथड को साइंटिफिक मत मानो, दूसरा भी साइंटिफिक. एग्जामिनेशन पर्पज से इफ इट कम्स राइट शॉर्ट नोट्स ऑन साइंटिफिक मेथड, then you will be mentioning both inductivism as well as hypothetico-deductivism. Both are scientific, and this is the problem. I do conduct test series, but this year onwards I am stopping that, right, from 2007 onwards for mains. And I was asking a question to the people, postulates of positivism, right. And by that time 2011-12 I had become a little bit famous, मतलब पॉपुलरिटी थोड़ी बढ़ गई थी, कुछ रिजल्ट आ गए थे तो पॉपुलरिटी बढ़ गई थी काफ़ी लोग. So I had a rush, right, and then UPSC has an intention, it keeps a tab on all popular coaching classes. ठीक है, जैसे एक V से एक कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट उसने क्लेम किया, दिस ईयर इन प्रीलिम्स all questions from our notes, and it was true also. A number of questions had come. Next year onwards, whatever they teach, question would not come from their notes. So, UPSC wants to outwit coaching classes because they want to select a candidate who has a natural personality for bureaucrats, right. So, I was also giving that question, right, postulates of positivism, how are they confronted, etc. The first question that was asked in 2017, postulates of scientific method. Since I had taught only that postulates of positive method, so people considered only positive method as scientific method. So, they wrote the assumptions and postulates only of positivism and did not write anything about non-positivism. Another question had come subsequently in 2018, is non-positivism science? Today you go and see the question paper previous year. First, postulates of positive method, second, postulates of positivism, and third was, is non-positivism science, right. So, they want to outwit. So, you have to be thorough in your knowledge. Whatever I am teaching, the information must be going there. So, now definitely there is a limitation where they can change the question, but at least they can maneuver the question. So, scientific method, when it comes to write short notes, two: inductivism and hypothetico-deductivism, verificationism, falsificationism, right. What are the assumptions behind positivist approach? What are the assumptions behind non-positivist approach? Because Karl Popper says non-positivist apply this falsificationism, right. Now, is there any much difference between Karl Popper and positivist philosophy? Are they polar opposite, right, or they are completely contradictory to each other? This issue has been addressed by T.S. Kuhn, right. For the time being, what we saw, we were talking about what is science, and we had said science is a method. First we said science is a discipline, then we said science is a method. But now we are saying, after Karl Popper, that method should be called as scientific, which instills critical spirit in the researcher. So, what kind of a spirit that method should instill? If it is killing the critical spirit, it should not be called as science, and if it is giving rise to critical spirit, it should be called as science. See, you are laying the parameters to evaluate whether a method is science or not. Am I successful? Depends on the parameter. You have to first define the parameter of success. You may think after qualifying civil services, I am the most successful person. वो घास वाला जो घास काटने वाला कहते बेकार है, दिन भर बर्बाद हो जाएगा इसका. I am very happy, 9 to 5 I am working. I spend my life with my children. I have little expectations. गरीब कल्याण योजना में खाना भी मिल जाता है. I don't have any worry. So he defines success in another way, right? In the same way, what is science? You have to identify the parameter, right? And based on those parameters, you have to evaluate whether sociology is science or not, right? In the next class, we will be talking about T.S. Kuhn, right, who says something about positivist and falsificationism both, and then he also gives birth to a new concept that is known as paradigm. And he says, when a discipline attains a paradigm, then it attains the status of science. Thank you. Any book for? Any book for sociology? You missed the first class? Right. So, can anybody tell her? Ask somebody, they will tell you, right? Have you joined? So, are you added in the WhatsApp group? तो वहाँ से बोल के ऐड करवाओ अगर ज्वाइन कर लिए हो तो।
सर वो बोले बट ऐड नहीं किया, इन्फॉर्मेशन कैसे मिले सर क्लास के रिगार्डिंग?
उसी व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में अनअकैडमी सोशियोलॉजी ऑप्शनल करके एक व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप है।
You have also posted some PDFs also.
हाँ, आई हैव पोस्टेड PDF ऑल्सो। ठीक है, आई विल पोस्ट दैट अगेन, डोंट वरी। ठीक है, आप जाओ यहाँ पे जो स्टोर में जो रिस्पॉन्सिबल है उनसे बोलो, दे विल, दोज हु आर नॉट एडेड इन द व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप, माइंड इट, ओनली दोज हु आर एनरोल्ड वुड बी एडेड इन दैट, राइट। फिर जाके बोलो, फिर जाके बोलो, फिर जाके बोलो। आप खुद से ऐड नहीं हो सकते हो जब तक एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेंगे। थैंक यू।